Hi, Patrick here from Half Cheater Will View. Welcome to Friday. Uh, it seems like yours truly has dropped the ball. I told you this is not my week. This is the worst week of my life every year, and yeah. I inadvertently put down 3:30 for our interview with Joe O'Connell, where it was supposed to be 3 to 3:30. So I'm hopefully my co-host will get this in time and will join us. We're being joined by our friend Chris, also known as Mr. Flickster. I sent him an SOS saying, "Come up, come up, come up." Um, so, but I have a feeling it's going to be all right because I have a feeling that we'll be able to talk to Joe longer than our 30 minutes. I don't know why. I just, so far, every time I've done these interviews like this, hey, Patrick, how are you, sir? Um, Anytime I've done an interview like this, where I've had a small window, I've always managed to stretch it out. Um, so I think that has to do with a very good chat and some really good questions and a dialogue. And they're not just, set in stone, the usual questions. I think they're a discussion, and I think our guest really enjoys it, and they end up staying a little bit longer. So that's what I'm hoping for today, kids, because it's supposed to be at 3:30. I said 3:30 to 4, and it's supposed to be 3 to 3:30. Uh, you're doing the lazy day. Uh, well, I'm doing the panic day. That's what I'm doing. I'm doing panic day. I also have two shows tonight too. The second show is dead set in stone. We will be back at 8 o'clock tonight to talk to the cast of St. Mary's School for Children of the Stigmata. That will happen at 8 o'clock Eastern time. That is set in stone. This is going to be just a fly by your pants. Hopefully it works type deal. Um, Hopefully I see people are peeking in. I please come on in. If there was ever a time for you guys to come in and stay, today would be that day, and now would be the time. All right. So our guest today is Joe O'Connell. He is a filmmaker who has made this fine. I'm calling it a documentary. I know some people might call it like a docudrama, but I really don't see that. I see this as being very much a very much a documentary, and that's good because this is a great documentary. Um, Rondo Hatton. Some of you might know the name. You might remember hearing the term um, the Rondo Awards. Many horror fans and stores and super fans and magazines, they win awards called the Rondo. And the award was named after Rondo Hatton, who was a star in the 40s, 30s, and 40s. He did over 20 motion pictures, and he was a very brave man. He suffered from a pituitary disease called acromegaly, which caused his bones to grow and shrink, and it left him terribly disfigured and very, very, very frightening to look at to a lot of people. But he was a very smart and intelligent man. Um, he was he was a fine journalist and a writer, and he found a lovely wife who loved him for who he was. He replaced Boris Karloff at Universal Studios, and I'm sitting here and this may be sort of harsh, but it's not. But I do find it a little bit ironical, and I will be talking to Joe about this. I find it a little bit ironical that the man in Rondo Hatton, the man you would have thought would have committed suicide because of what happened to him and the looks that he got and the way people reacted to him, you would have thought that he would have been the one that would have committed suicide, but he didn't. And Bob Burns, who had cancer, and I respect that, trust me, but he did. He didn't take advantage of we don't know what kind of cancer he had. but he didn't decide to go for treatment at all. He just and I said I'm not judging him at all. I'm not, I have no comment about that. I just found it to be a little interesting. I definitely want to ask Joe about that. Um, thank you for coming in. I see five or six people are popping in. So we'll be talking to Joe O'Connell here in a few minutes. Hopefully my co-host will get my SOS quick, and that will be Mr. Flickster. Um, I thought the time for the show was 3:30. I thought I put it down for 3:30 to 4 because I knew I had the other show tonight to do, but it peaked up and said that it was supposed to be from 3 to 3:30. So Joe should be here in about 10 minutes or so. And if you guys all come in, please come on in and sign the ledger. Come on in and say hi. Um, Bob Burns, to those who might not know who Bob Burns was, though some of you guys might know, Bob Burns was the artistic designer for many great movies, such as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Hills Have Eyes, uh, The Howling, among many others. Um, he left a tremendous legacy. Tremendous legacy. Um, and his creations are still talked about today. It's amazing what he did for the money he did it on. Hey, there he is. How you doing, Kevin? Kevin in the house. He'll be with us here next week to talk. That's right. We're gonna have a lot of fun next week. Speaking of that, I should do that now, right? So, wow, we still got some shows going on. Like I said, tonight we will be back here tonight to talk about with the guest of St. Mary's School for the children of the Stigmata. That will be here tonight at 8 o'clock. That will be the biggest show I've done as far as guest wise. We are scheduled to have six guests on tonight to talk about the show. It's a radio drama that you can hear as a podcast, and I've listened to it, and I'll listen to it again today. It's tremendous. I love it. I wish there were more of it. I wish people did more of these. These are amazing. It's old school. It's like going back to old school, listen to old school radio. I do. I grew up. Hey, Jamie. I just heard your song, by the way. I thought your song was beautiful. Yeah, I thought you did really well. And I'm not saying this to say this to you, Jamie, but trust me when I say this, as a professional who's worked with over 1,000 bands and booked over 500 shows, you have a really good voice. You have a really good voice. I would book you. I would book you. So if you have any doubt about that, about the quality of your voice, I would book you. I will put you in front of any crowd any club that I worked at. I will book you into it. So I also think that voices get stronger with confidence. The more confident you feel in your ability, the better you sound. That's absolutely 100% true. So you have some talent. So please don't be shy of your voice. You got a really good voice. And the songs. So one thing I'll say too, that what songs really work well for you. Yeah, it's not about practice. It's just about singing publicly. You just get out there, you drop a song once in a while, drop it like once a week or something like that. You can sing. You know that the reason why you're having a trouble is because you're sick. That's different from not having ability. You have ability. It's not your fault that you got sick. You still got a great voice. You just have to adapt for it. And I think singing folk rock or folk is definitely right up your alleyway. Me too. there's a channel on here on the tube that plays all the old radio shows overnight. And sometimes I'll listen to it. I'll turn it on and I'll listen to it. And there's several different playlists they have too. That's how I got involved in horror and science fiction and fantasy and whatnot. I cut my teeth on the CBS Mystery Theater. I didn't. Hi, Claymere. How are you? We'll be talking to Joe O'Connell here in about. Well, he's scheduled to be here in about 5 minutes or so. Hopefully, he's a little late because if he is a little late, that means I get to talk to him a little bit longer. Yeah. So Joe O'Connell also made. He also directed another movie called Danger God, which we'll talk about as well, and that is about stuntman Gary Kent. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, this is gonna be a fun interview. Uh, yes, I saw that Echo for the Beast. True fact, true fact. Um, when they filmed that movie and they played it in front of an audience, they had a cheetah. It was a cheetah that was there, but the audiences were too scared of the cheetah. They were freaking out by it. So they had to go back to that movie. They had to go back to it, and they had a CGI a lion, so people wouldn't be quite as terrified. That's true. It was supposed to be a cheetah, but the test audiences were just too scared. I get it. Yes, yes, the late horror show. That's it. It looks really good. Um, I got an idea for you for that too, Jamie. I do. I can tell you. I'll talk to you on Instagram. I have a suggestion for you too for that. No, no. You'll have to just frame your voice to the to what you can sing comfortably. I think folk is probably right up your alleyway. It's a lot less strain on your voice than like a pop or rock. Yeah, that's awesome. I've listened to The Shadow. I've listened to Dragnet. I've listened to they had the CBS Mystery Theater over there. They have just tons of they have um, the Boston Blackie, Richard Diamond. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Gunsmoke. They have Gunsmoke over there. Sherlock Holmes. Okay, Facebook then. Uh, yeah, so I dropped the ball here, and hopefully, my guest is supposed to be at 3 o'clock. Hopefully, he's a little late because that means I'll probably be able to talk to him a little longer. Um, that's right. Orson Welles was the Shadow. Orson Welles did several episodes as the Shadow, the man behind the greatest movie some people believe ever created in Citizen Kane. He was the Shadow. He had a perfect radio voice too. William Conrad. William Conrad had the perfect radio voice. Um, the old Gunsmoke show was on, and it had James Arness as Matt Dillon. Oh, thank you, Jamie. No, I'm just telling you, you got something there. And another thing too, I really like is that you love to sing, and you'll do it anyway. So I really do respect that. Yeah, I don't know. You know what? I can't understand why YouTube would take away any monetization because I do believe everything that he broadcasts is all public domain. Everything that he's done is public domain. Hey, Mr. Dan and Whore. There was a TV show they made about that, about the broadcast that Orson Welles did on Halloween. Scared half the country. Half the country believed that we were being invaded by UFOs. No problem. That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. I'm glad we were able to do that for you. And when you get close to 150 or 200, let us know. We'll help you push that too. And I saw Jamie's over 400, so give it up for our girl Jamie. She just recently passed 400. Our good friend Cody from Horror and Collectibles, he passed 1,000. Our girl Jamie, Jamie Jacozzi, she passed 1,000. I interviewed her last week with her friend Crystal. She just passed 1,000. So there's a lot of milestones going on here in the tube. A lot of us tubers are reaching our goals. Echo's getting close to 100. Uh, 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 Kevin's got a good channel, man. Have you guys checked out his channel? I gotta throw that down on here. You guys need to connect with him. His reviews are so sparkling. And Mr. Flixer's not bad either. Mr. Flixer's, I really like the way he does his. Oh yeah, the Green Hornet. Yes. See, the Green Hornet, the Lone Ranger. Um, they even had in a really rare twist because normally it was the other way around. They used to make TV shows out of the radio shows, right? The radio shows came first and then the TV shows. Well, in a weirdly strange twist, Have Gun Will Travel did the opposite. It went from radio from TV to radio. That was cool. That's real cool. Greetings, greetings. That's awesome. Yeah, I really like his style. It's really quirky. It's really you know what it is too, Kevin. It's the spirit fingers, Mister Fixter. I just immediately think spirit fingers from Bring It On. Yeah, those aren't spirit fingers. These are spirit fingers. Okay. Yes. Okay. What can I say? I love that movie. Let me go grab Kevin here. Those aren't spirit fingers. Yeah, okay. All right. Let's see. Haunted by Horror. That's the thing too. Is like you have a big channel, Kevin, but you don't come up on the search engines very easy. Jamie, can you grab his page, Jamie, and drop it inside the chat, please? Hi, bud. Well, how about this? How about Winnie the Pooh hitting public domain? Winnie the Pooh is now public domain, and they made a horror movie out of him. I didn't see that coming. Well, the channel may be so generic, but the content is awesome. Please feel free to connect with Kevin, and he'll be here next week, by the way. We'll be talking all things horror and films and how he does his analysis and his critiques. Just sensational stuff. Really, really good stuff. If I could get to be as quarter good as that, I would die happy man here. If my reviews were a quarter as good as that, I'd be all right. All right, let me see if I can make sure they didn't ping me here. Maybe they will push me back. Maybe they'll push me back to 3:30. Maybe that was just a reminder. But no, hey, let's see. All right. Give me a minute here. All right. Let's see. Yeah. You know what? I'm sure that's coming. Yeah. Oh no, I'm not overhyping it. Trust me, we've all seen reviews in here. We've all seen the reviews. Yeah, it's really strong, Jamie. He's got great content. Really. I haven't seen anybody review as well as he has. I've been on the tube for now almost 2 years. There is a fine art to do in film reviews, and that's something I certainly don't have. I could do a deep dive, and I could do an interview, but I cannot do solo film reviews. Oh my god, I hate it. Winnie the Pooh is part of my childhood, and don't like people messing with my childhood. Yeah, that is sort of strange, isn't it? I thought Disney, doesn't Disney own everything by now? I thought Disney owned Winnie the Pooh. I guess they let it go, right? I know they had specials and yeah, no, isn't that something else? I wonder why they let it go. I just can't believe it. I mean, I don't think it'll cost very much money to hold on to that. But now it's in the public domain. So you know what? It's just a matter of time before we get an Amityville Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh and Amityville market. I'm telling you right now, today, right now, that'll be coming up sooner than later. Winnie the Pooh moves inside the Amityville house. It's gonna be yeah. I have to read. I haven't read on it. I just heard that it slid into the domain and they already making a movie about it, a slasher movie. Let's see. Oh, Jamie's first convention. Oh boy, conventions are so much fun. In Lexington, Kentucky. Wow, you're not. You know, David from David's Horror is from there. I'm sure he's going to that too. Okay, come on, Jeff. Hmm. Well. Oh, come on. This is why you deal with third parties. You have to wait. You have to wait for them. Hopefully hopefully just they manage to get it done. Uh, huh. Well, well, that'll be great. Are you guys gonna do a table? Hopefully you guys will do a table, maybe. I think that's what Knight's gonna do. I think they're getting a table up in New Jersey. I think that's probably because I've been doing the interview series a long time, so it's up there. Plus, I have a pretty unique channel name that helps too. I don't think there's too many have Cheetos will view on the tube, but that's a good thing though, right, Kevin? I mean, that's a good thing. We're gonna have a lot of fun. There's gonna be a lot of people here for that. Um, let's see. Oh, you're just going like a uh, okay meetup. You got VIP tickets. Good for you. I guess our Comic Con is happening this weekend. The Motor City Comic Con. I looked at the guest list. The guest list for our convention. It was actually pretty weak. I've never seen one more weaker than that. Not very many people at all. I mean, they had a couple of good names there. They had Matthew Lilliard there, and a couple of other names. But overall, the volume, it's not. It wasn't very strong. I was actually surprised by that because the Motor City Comic Con had actually been doing pretty darn well as far as getting some good guests goes. Yeah, so tonight you guys can all come back tonight. Um, I'm gonna be really irritated if Joe doesn't make it here. They should let me know that he's gonna be running late. I'm really sort of like, dude, your other interviewer had plenty of time to interview him. Let's see. Nope. Well, I had Mr. Flickster coming in at 3:15, so he should have been here by now. He'll be here momentarily. And then maybe I will get Joe at 3:30. That would be awesome. That's what I said. I said 3:30, so initially, but I'm sort of scattered this week. Let's see. Robert England, Les Henriksen, Return of the Living Dead 2 reunion, and Nightmare on Elm Street 4 reunion. Dina Ashbrook will be there. I'm stoked for that. Matt Lillard is a good actor. Yep, I agree. Yeah, he was like the highlight of the other guests, for sure. Let's see. David Tennant. Yeah, David Tennant. Yeah. Was he the doctor? He did Doctor Who, right? Is he the doctor that said that he didn't want to go at the end where he got regenerated, but his incarnation of the doctor didn't want to go. He says, "I don't want to go." Man, that was good. Yeah, 13 Ghosts is great. Seems like everything got pushed back. I mean, really pushed back. Now, everybody, did anybody like David Harbour as Hellboy? Was that so? It was him? Thanks so much, dude. I choked up watching that. He said he didn't want to go. Yeah, I choked up watching that. That was some brilliant writing. They really have really they have really made that show really special recently. Well, when I first watched it, it was like it was so bad. Oh, I have yet to see the Lost Hellboy movie. Yeah, you know what? It's not really his. I don't really. It's obviously it's not David Harbour's fault. It's the producer's fault. They should have listened to. They should have they should have let Del Toro and Perlman ride it out. My first doctor, Tom Baker. Tom Baker. The single best moment. There's Hellboy has so many fun moments, but I love the end where Liz is sitting there and she's standing there and she's flamed on and she looks at that the aide and she says, "You should be running." Damn. Selma Blair absolutely crushed that moment. Liz Sheridan, smoking hot in that movie, literally. Yeah, I have not seen. I've only watched the first movie, and I watched the two animated one. The Sword of A Storm of Swords, and one other one. Yeah, he just seemed too small to play Hellboy. He's an average guy. He looks like an average guy. I mean, Ron Perlman's the big burly dude. He looks like a Hellboy. All right. Well, I'm gonna be fried here. Where is he? Where is my guest? Oh, hmm, this is not fun. I'm not sure if he got delayed or what. I don't know. He might be on a different. He might be doing another interview. So he might be on doing another show. Yeah, Selma Blair is absolutely adorable. But she was frightening in that movie. Let's see, oh, let's see, Bill Moseley, William Cott, Fiona Dorff, John Kassir, Eugene Clark were all at HorrorCon in Seattle. Wow. Wow, yeah, that would have been a good show to see, sir. William Cott, you could talk to him about House. That was a fun movie. I felt bad for him though. The great American hero, the greatest American man. That show was it was dated the day it aired. The effects looked 20 years old by the time they aired it. It was terrible from day one, and it never got any better. It's it's really uh it's really unwatchable, to tell you the truth. But I like him. Yeah, it really was a really bad show. Yeah, good theme song. Yep, and Faye Grant was in it. She started in it for like the first 2 years as a student, and then she went on to become the star of V. That was good. Hey Rick, hopefully we'll be on here shortly. I'm just waiting for hopefully our guest will get here. Maybe he thought 3:30 too. Yeah, I dare say you watch it now, Jamie. Try watching it now. It does not hold up at all. Oh, it's terrible. I was just watching it. Because I found the first season I found the first season actually at a Salvation Army or whatnot, and I had it too. I have memories of it, when I watched it growing up too, and I put it on and I'm going like, wow, that's what I remember about that show. The show looked so the effects were so bad, but Bill Culp was funny. And that was the time where they were trying to make Connie Selica into a huge star. Yeah, that was not. Yeah, yeah, that was not a good one. But it's yeah, exactly, exactly. I reviewed I reviewed a show that when they had Connie Selica because they were trying to make her into a huge star. She was married to Jill Gerard. She got married to Gil Gerard from Buck Rogers, and at first she did Return to Westworld. They made a TV show out of the Westworld shows, and actually it wasn't half bad. It was all right, but back then, you had to come out with a certain number of people, and they didn't, and so they canceled it after. I think it aired like 5 shows before they canceled it. I actually reviewed that. Oh, but they had some fun shows back there, though. They had a show called Manimal with Simon McCorkindale. That was a really fun. Um, I don't know what happened to Simon McCorkindale. He was poised to become the next big thing here. He did that show, and then he did Jaws 3. He played the English shark expert who got chewed up, and then he like disappeared. Oh my gosh, you okay? Yeah, yeah. Let's see if I could go find that. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, it was. You can actually get the show. Warner Brothers Archives put it out, and then they had the Man from Atlantis with Patrick Ewing, or was it not Patrick Ewing, but Patrick Duffy. Patrick Duffy was Man from Atlantis. All right, let me go see if I can grab that for you. All right. Ah. Oh, there he is. Woohoo!
A little fuzzy in StreamYard, but
hey, you look dashing and debonair, sir.
all right.
You're just in time to watch me drop a link to the old Return to Westwood TV series.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember that show?
Westwood?
Westworld.
Oh, Westworld. Yeah, yeah. I didn't finish it. I mean, I was watching it, and then I was watching on HBO, and then we lost access to HBO, and I never went back. I loved it.
Oh, we're not. We're talking about the one from 1980.
Oh, you're talking about, okay. You're talking about Yul Brynner.
Yeah, it was one based off the Yul Brynner one, and then they came out. CBS came out in 1980 with a TV show called Return to Westworld, and it lasted. It lasted 5. That's because it only lasted 5 episodes.
Wow, who's in it?
It was Simon. It was Connie Selica, because we're talking about the greatest American hero. So that was back then. We were trying to make Connie Selica into a star.
Yeah.
And then there was Jay. It was. I'll send a link to you so you can. Okay. I reviewed it. It was a fun show, but it was fun, but it just didn't last that long.
Yeah.
It never really got a chance to blossom.
Yeah.
So how the hell are you, Joe? Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too. I'm doing well. We just had a week-long run at the Galaxy Theaters in Austin, where I'm from, which just kind of happened, and it was not a 4-wall. It was the real deal. It kind of freaked me out. Short notice.
I'm sure it was packed, right?
But it could have been more. I mean, that was the problem. We got noticed too late, and so it was hard to promote. But we did okay. We did pretty well. You know, it's Bob Burns' hometown.
So, I watched the film, and wow, it's a beautiful film. He did a really nice job on it.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
I mean, you seem to really have your finger on the pulse of both men. More, that's probably the one thing I took away from it. My first impression was, it's funny because you mentioned how Bob was researching everything he could on Rondo Hatton,
Yeah.
and somehow I could see you in Trail,
Right.
finding out everything you could put about Bob Burns and Rondo Hatton yourself, and
Yeah.
it sort of makes me wonder. I wonder if there's someone behind Joe right now trying to find out everything there is to know about Joe Locano.
That's it. Maybe they're there. I can't see them.
I
They're
wouldn't be surprised.
Here's a weird thing, and I don't know if you're rolling or not yet, but
oh yeah, we're live.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bob Burns could make anything, and so one of the weird things he made, it fools people on the internet into thinking it's real. It appeared in Playboy magazine, and it was like Steam Age or whatever, steampunk era dildo. And I was talking to a guy today, a friend of Bob's, and he said, "Yeah, Bob tried to sell me that thing, but I don't think I could put it in the window of my shop." And I'm like, "You should have bought it." It will go down in history fooling people. You can look it up you can Google it and find it. It appeared in Playboy in their history of sex.
Bob could make. You're right. He could make anything.
Yeah.
His talent was just amazing. I mean, I saw some of the pieces that some of the other collectors had and other people had. I mean, they look like they just came from. They stepped right out of 1974.
Yeah.
I mean, from the Texas Chain Saw Massacre, all those beautiful pieces, those chairs. I love the part where he told Toby not to make it bloody. Don't make it a blood test. Make it.
Exactly.
Yeah. You know what? It works. That's the thing about Texas Chain Saw Massacre. It's not the gore that makes the movie. It's the imagination and of course the screaming
and the sound.
Yes.
Wayne Bell's sound for that movie, I think, was also groundbreaking. It just makes you uncomfortable.
Oh yes, it's a very uncomfortable movie to watch, even today. I remember watching that movie, and I'm sitting there, and there's Sally at the table, and she literally is going insane. She's going, and we're watching her have a psychotic break, and she's just screaming and screaming and screaming. It's just like, before, the first scream is like, okay, yeah, then the second one is like, oh, then the third one is like, well, this is really, I mean, she's really suffering here. She's like, hell. And it's still very haunting to this day.
Yeah. And I think Bob's look of the film did so much. And people are still trying to recreate the Leatherface mask to get their formula just right. They contact me. They say, what do you know? What do you know? And I don't know. I don't have an answer for them.
Yeah. I mean, mask makers, I've talked to several mask makers, including a very strong one, James Shaver.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hard skill to master.
Yeah.
It's not one of those things that once you make the mask, everything comes like gravy to you. It's not like that. It's like filmmaking.
Yeah.
So you go out there and you make a 20-minute short film. Well, it doesn't make you Orson Welles, right? You gotta keep practicing.
Yeah.
Even for Bob, he created a lot of great pieces, a lot of great sets, but he never stopped looking to improve his craft.
He hung out at Goodwill, man. That's his thing. Thrift stores. He could go in and come out with anything. Any kind of creation. The guy I was talking to ran one of those kind of stores, ran a thrift store, and Bob would come in and he'd sell him stuff because Bob was always poor. So he was looking to unload things. And this guy bought one of the bone chairs. And do you know who Harry Knowles is?
Yeah.
Okay. But he's kind of, he's got his issues now. His dad owns one of the bone chairs. This guy bought it from Bob, and then he sold it to Jay Knowles.
Okay.
And I never got them to I tried to contact them, but it's probably not been the right era to be contacting them.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how Harry would have. Yeah, he did some pretty horrendous things.
Yeah, I don't want to go into it. I love Jay. Jay Knowles is
Yeah,
a comic book guy. I swear, comic book guy is him, though he's thinner than that from The Simpsons.
right.
Yeah, you know,
Uh, no, I mean, hopefully, yeah, he just, yeah, that happens.
yeah,
You mentioned Bob being poor all his life. That was interesting hearing that too. Where he literally could not afford to stay on a set of a film because they couldn't feed him. He was like,
right.
he's like, I was amazed by that.
Yeah,
Um,
it was
but you,
part of his choice. He left Hollywood. He just did not like Hollywood and what was going on there. So he came back to Austin and made his own way. Did his
yeah.
own stuff. Made his own weird movies. Uh, Mongrel and Screen Test, the unreleased film, which we have, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have the whole thing, but it's just on videotape.
How
Uh,
was it?
it's goofy because Bob was a goofy guy. Bob had a real goofy sense of humor, and so the
Uh,
movie is that way too.
did you get a chance to meet him, Joe?
Yes, yeah, that's how this whole thing started. Uh, my first film is called Danger God. It's about Gary Kent, who B-movie stuntman. He was the inspiration for Brad Pitt's stuntman character in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I
Right.
knew Gary and I was writing a column for the Austin American Statesman about film, not reviewing or anything, but about the industry. And Bob he was a serial blood donor, and he had gotten to the 5-gallon level. And it was also appropriate. I think Bob probably appreciated that. So they had a special event. The walls were covered with posters of films he'd worked on. And we sat down and talked. And at the end, he gave me a script called Rondo and May, which is his love story about Rondo Hatton. And when the notion came up to do this film, I realized I didn't want to just do a film about Bob Burns. I wanted to do one about both of these guys. It's not inspired by that. It's inspired by that script, but it's not based on that script, I should say. What we did, we wrote our own stuff. So
I was impressed with I was impressed with it. What made you decide to cover both of them? I mean, you could have easily gotten
right
a single movie out of each one of them, but you tackled both of them. What led you to do that?
from the beginning, I understood that there was some kind of weird relationship between the two, although they lived in different eras, never met.
Yeah.
Bob was this extremely creative, weird guy who was normal looking, and Rondo was this very normal guy, just completely normal, who was weird looking. And there was something in that. And Bob was so obsessed with him, with Rondo Hatton, that really I thought that was the story. I could do a straight up documentary about Bob and his impact on the horror industry, pretty easily. In fact, I discovered when I started this project that someone else had begun a documentary about him that was never completed, and that person appears in our film.
Oh,
Oddly, yeah,
I mean, the body of work that he did is just absolutely amazing. You
yeah,
know, people don't realize that. I don't think people realize this is how impactful he was. He did the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Hills Have Eyes, Tourist Trap, which was the very first cable movie I ever saw.
yeah,
The first movie I saw on cable was Tourist Trap, rated PG, rated PG,
yeah,
starring Chuck Connors.
yeah. It's
What
such,
a mind blowing movie.
yeah. And you learn the secret in the documentary that Austin was the home to a prosthetics company, and that's where he got the stuff for Tourist Trap. That's where Bob got stuff. He knew how to do that. He knew how to find things. It's also
Um,
where a lot of other stuff like Crawling Hands and I forget the name of that film, the Mexican film Yeah, I can't think of it. But it's got the little crawling hand with a knife through it.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Let's see. Let's see if I think I can see if I can see it on here.
It starts with an A, I believe.
Ah,
Had a U.S. name too.
was he the actor in that?
No, he was the actor in Confessions of a Serial Killer. Bob was actually a trained actor. He had a degree in theater from the University of Texas.
Yeah, that surprised me.
Mm-hmm.
That surprised me. I did not know that.
Yeah, and we cut a lot. We had to cut. You have to cut stuff, man. The movie gets too long, and I'm probably already being too completist as it is in what you saw. But he was in a ton of local films in Austin. He would do anything. You know, he liked to act.
Your film does not feel long at all, Joe.
Oh, good.
It flew for me. It was so fascinating. You know, it was so interesting. I love the choices you made in it. You know, it's funny because I actually, when I saw that and I started reading up on it, I knew that when they said that Rondo had acromegaly, I knew that disease. I know of it. Yeah, my wife, she had a pituitary tumor too called a prolactinoma.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what acromegaly is. It's a pituitary disease.
Right. Yeah.
So I was aware of it, but I was not aware of Rondo having it.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to, let's talk about you a little bit before we get back to Rondo and Bob, because obviously you're the filmmaker, you're the star of this interview, as far as I'm concerned. Okay. Because I've been trying to, and I've been looking for one. I'm trying to find a copy of Danger God, because I saw Gary Kent. I saw him do a movie called Bone Hill Road.
Sure. So
I became aware of Gary that way, and then I saw the documentary, but I haven't been able to get a copy of it yet. I'm going to find a copy.
It's on Tubi, I think. So you can probably just watch it on Tubi too.
Okay, I could do that. I'm a physical media guy too.
Okay. Yeah, we have not arranged yet for physical media for Rondo and Bob. I need to see about that. I mean, it's a weird time where horror fans like physical media. You know, I don't know if anybody else does still.
It does seem that way, doesn't it? It does seem like the physical media, the horror community is the only one keeping it up afloat, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'd like to, it's ripe for extras on a Blu-ray. There's the short, that part of it is in the movie, The Man Who Loved Inflatable Women. More of Bob's goofy humor. We've got that short, and we could probably put it on there because I know who owns it. Really, the investor who paid for all of it and paid for all the screen tests too. So I could probably put those on as bonus material, which would be kind of interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a distributor out there that would be fair with you. I mean, that wouldn't charge you an arm and a leg. I got to get 50,000 back before you see a penny.
Right.
I'm sure that, it's like, it's a documentary, dude.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's like, documentaries don't make that kind of money normally. I mean, hopefully, I think this would really appeal to the horror community, though. If it was marketed the right way, I think, we would do very, very well. Because there's a lot of interest now. Everybody knows what the Rondo Awards are. Everybody knows that.
Sure.
But I don't think a lot of them know the man behind the award. They know the name of the award, but they don't know the story behind it.
They know the look of Rondo from that. Yeah. It's funny because early on in the project, we went out to Los Angeles, and I think we were interviewing Stuart Gordon. We went out there to interview him and Dee Wallace. And we just walked into a store. We walked past the store, and my editor said, "We should go in there." And it was Dark Delicacies.
Mm-hmm.
And it ended up being in the film. We saw the Rondo Award on the wall. It's like, oh man, we got to interview you. So
yeah, Dark Delicacies is a great place.
It is, yeah.
They keep horror alive. Like, there's not very many stores like it in the country, and that's all they do is horror. They don't do anything else, and they give back a lot. They help, they do Screen Queens, and they do some of the ones that maybe they aren't getting the roles like they used to, but they
Right.
still roll them out there and they still treat them like royalty.
Yeah.
And and they create a big event for it. It's really nice.
And Bill's a really nice guy too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, people, but like I said, I don't think people really truly know. Um, I don't think people truly understand or know the Rondo Hatton story. Um, I guess real quick. Who was the actor that did Rondo, and how much was how much did it cost to, or what did it take to create his mask for him?
We have that's Joseph Middleton. He's an Austin actor. And we have a guy, Paul Smith, who is just a genius, and he created the mask, that and Mrs. Hatton when she was older, and he had worked with Bob Burns. He was an assistant to him, and he's just really good. I mean, and I don't want to say how much, but it wasn't that much really.
The mask was amazing.
Other people ought to be approaching him to do stuff. Yeah, it's a very intense process where you take you put stuff on the actor's face, make a mold. From that, you make a mold of Rondo, and he, creates that. And then there are many masks. There's a whole series. I've got 2 of them, but there's a whole series of them in parts. Like one we used a lot on set. There was a chin underlay, and then, he was on the set every time we shot with the mask. So it was a very detailed process. And,
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, and Mrs. Hatton, the same thing. But hers is a thinner mask. It's tough, and I feel like our actor learned how to. He had to, exaggerate movements, and he got that better later in the film. Low budget film, man. This is low budget stuff.
Your actors gave their all in it. I mean, it was beautifully acted. I mentioned before you got here, it's like, I know a lot of people would call that a docudrama, because you have recreated scenes and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I didn't see it as that, Joe. I saw it as I saw it as 100% documentary.
I had seen the film. My whole inspiration for how to do it was seeing Becoming Bond, the story of George Lazenby. And I know that reviewers gave it flack for this, but I liked the movie. Was all Lazenby sitting on with a backdrop, well lit, telling his story, and the other half was recreations with an actor who didn't necessarily look like Lazenby. So I decided to go that way, and I went to a drama school and said, "Who you got who could play Bob Burns?" And the drama head said, "I've got this guy who looks more like him. I got this guy who's a better actor." And so and from that experience watching Becoming Bond, I said, "Give me the better actor." And I think Ryan Williams is the actor. And I think he got the kind of weirdness of Bob. He's,
Yeah. Bob was brilliant.
Yeah.
But he was also sort of reclusive at the same time. It was almost like I don't know if it was a good analogy. It's probably one that's off the wall, but he sort of reminded me in a sense, sort of like a turtle in a sense. It's like he pop his head out, look around, see what's going on, but then he would go back in the shell, and then he's comfortable there.
Yeah, I think he was most creative creating, making stuff.
Right.
That's what made him happy.
Well, like, again, you go back to his body of work. I mean, when you mention things like, I mentioned Tourist Trap. I didn't mention, the Howling, Microwave Massacre.
Yeah.
You got Mausoleum, Re-Animator, which is one of my top 10 horror films of all time. I mean, that's just his sets are just absolutely just amazing.
Yeah.
But let's go back. Let's go back to you. Where did you get your start in movies? I mean, where were you born and raised at? You said
I'm from Texas. I'm from Austin. Born and raised, and
what a great place to be a filmmaker at.
Yeah, and it's it's a college town, so there's always that influence. And I have always liked movies. When I was a kid, cable television meant my parents were divorced. My father had cable television, and I would go on Friday nights. Cable television meant for us getting San Antonio stations. That's all it was, really. And in the San Antonio station on Friday nights had something called Project Terror, where the scientific and the terrifying merge. And they would show the old horror films. And I slept in a little cot in front of the TV so that I could stay up and watch those horror films. I'd do that all the time. And so I was into it, and I've always been into movies. And I went to graduate school to study creative writing. I was a newspaper reporter, but I wanted to write fiction. So I went to graduate school, and as a graduate student, I had the main qualification to be a movie extra, which is free schedule, wide open schedule. So I did a lot of that, and every time I would be a movie extra, I would write about it, and I would get something in newspapers. I started covering the San Antonio papers. San Antonio Express News had me covering the film festivals, so that kind of happened. And then I became a film columnist, and I had a column in the Austin American Statesman, the Austin Chronicle, and the Dallas Morning News.
Did you start writing? Were you doing film? Were you a film reviewer?
Some reviewing, but mainly writing about the industry, writing about what's happening, which to me was more interesting than doing.
Yeah,
I did some.
I agree.
Yeah, and at some point, the newspaper business changed so much, and my bosses kept getting fired or kept getting laid off, and
it's not making too much money.
Yeah, and so the Dallas Morning News, I just decided to quit and go do my own stuff. And I had met Gary Kent, and so I decided I kept telling him somebody needed to do a documentary about him, and his memoir was coming out, and I realized that somebody was me. And so I overdid it. I had 2 camera crews when he had his book release, and I just kind of went from there, and I had to learn how to do it, how to make a movie. So by the time the second film came around, I knew how to do it. And I had hooked up with a guy who edited for me, a guy named Kirk Hunter, who, he's been doing it forever. He's famous for a film called Barn of the Blood Llama, a really horrible horror film. Track it down. And watch
blood of the what?
Barn of the Blood Llama.
Blood Llama. Oh,
find it, man. It's
probably on Tubi, or it's probably been remade by Dustin Ferguson.
I think I think Kirk still owns it.
Okay.
You won't find it too many. You might find it out there. I don't know, but if you want a copy, he'll get you a copy. Just ask me.
I would like to. You gotta love movies like that. They're bulletproof. They're bulletproof. No matter. I mean, this movie's like not all that. Oh, yes, it is. It's you can't hate on a movie like that.
It's the best of the bad.
Right.
And that was their intention.
There's something to be said about making a bad movie so bad that it becomes a cult favorite.
Yeah, and it was made by a bunch of people involved with Austin Access Television. So,
Now you living in Austin, you get to see South by Southwest.
Mm-hmm.
What a great place to learn your craft and make connections,
right?
And shape your vision, your creative vision. I mean, I sort of, does it surprise you that more creators don't come out there, more directors don't come out to Austin?
Well, I find a bunch of them are leaving. And I don't know if it's because of COVID or what, but, I discovered a lot of folks had left town that I didn't know had left town recently. So, but the film program at the University of Texas is so good and big. And we have those resident filmmakers, Richard Linklater, Robert Rodriguez, Mike Judge. that kind of grow things too. I don't know how things stand though after COVID. It's
Yeah,
kind of a different time.
yeah. I was when going back to Rondo and Bob, I was to me one of the most powerful moments was where Bob saw that young lady get killed in front of him. That must have been horrific.
Yeah.
How did you find out about that story?
Well, that's
I
the weird thing making this film is that you talk to people, and I'm talking to Marcus Gonzalez, a filmmaker who worked with Bob, and in the middle of interviewing him, he says, "Did Bob ever tell you that story about the time he saw the guy get killed?" It's like, no, but now we have to film it. So
Yeah,
we had to go film it, you know, because those things are all formative for who he was.
I was gonna say, I wonder how much of that was the influence on him going forward.
Yeah. And the University of Texas Tower shooting, which was the first big campus shooting like that in 1966. And Bob was on campus and Toby Hooper was on campus. Toby
Yeah,
Hooper had written about it a number of times, about seeing the police officer saying, "Get inside," and then seeing the officer shot. So that's all true stuff, you know. So you got to wonder about the influence. These two guys who were behind the most influential horror film in our modern era were both there that day, which is
you
crazy.
know, I agree. I agree with that, and I'm one of those people that will say that too. Is that I mean, like Psycho might have been the granddad of the slasher film, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre built the house.
Yeah,
We really did. I mean, there was, I mean, it was cutting edge back there where Alfred, did the shower scene. But could you imagine them trying to do that 20 years, after? You can imagine trying to do Texas Chainsaw in 54 or 55
yeah,
or whatever when Cycle came out. I mean, the minds would have been this. I mean, the minds were blown anyway with Psycho.
they
But
were.
can
Yeah,
you, I
it's a great
mean,
movie.
but can you imagine what the text and no blood,
Yeah,
no blood, just watching
yeah,
people get impaled on a hook, watching a disabled guy get killed in his chair. I mean, holy shit! I mean, we never seen anything like that before.
yeah.
It's so influential.
But
Um,
I think Toby Hooper wanted. He was feeling that desire for that blood. So when he made the second one,
yeah,
as more of an over the top film, he he
it
poured
really
out the
did.
blood. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it had that one memorable kill in the car, and it's like okay, but then it just wasn't. It never had the feel for it. It
Yeah,
never had the feel of the first one. You weren't scared at all. I mean, I
yeah,
saw the second one. There's no, no, I wasn't scared at all. But the first one, yeah, the first one still creeps the hell out of it. It still creeps me out.
yeah.
I mean, it's almost 50 years later, and you still think about those scenes, and that door slamming shut and everything. I mean, it's just like, holy shit, it's like based on a true story, and uh, so what was the you wanted to do a little acting too. What came first for you, acting or directing?
Oh, yeah, I just did extra bits, that kind of thing, and I would
Did
be
you
pulled
did
into
you ever
that.
want to go beyond that? Did you ever think, well, I like doing this, but now I want to maybe go up and
I
see?
Yeah, I've always been a storyteller, and so that's more of what I'm interested in. I have a book out, and I've just completed my COVID project was writing a book about the Ross sisters who were contortionists in Texas, and you've probably seen them because they were internet sensations in the last couple of years. They ran a movie called Broadway Rhythm in the '40s and sang a song called "Solid Potato Salad" while they did their contortion. If you haven't, you probably have seen it.
Yeah, I'm sure if once I saw it, I
You
recognize
look at
it.
it, go, oh yeah, I've seen it because it seems like everybody has. And so I'm kind of interested in stories, and I was interested in what happened to them when I found out they were from West Texas. I just kind of wanted to know what their story was, and so I spent a good while tracking it down and writing it, and I have my first draft of that done. About to get into revision.
Now,
So You know,
I mean, why do you, what draws you to the past like that? I mean, like,
it's just
you,
I have
you and
always
Bob Burns, I'm sorry, if you think about it, you and Bob Burns both are sort of inquisitive that way,
yeah
not worried about, not worried, not really thinking about what's happening today, but in the past, him with Rondo and you with the twins. I mean,
yeah.
what's the attraction?
Uh, it's just I'm just after the human story, and so it's really that. And it's the same thing with Rondo and Bob. I'm after the human story of what makes Bob tick and what makes Rondo tick, and how those two stories intersect. For the Ross sisters, there's actually three of them, uh, and I found out more and more it's a really weird story. It's just a really weird story what happened to them, uh, and it's as much a story about their mother as anything else. And they were dirt poor. They were dirt poor. They were living in a tent. 1937, Dust Bowl days, winds howling through. They're right across the Texas border in Hobbs, New Mexico, living in a tent. And this old bread truck pulls up next to them. And this family comes out, and this little girl starts contorting and moving like a little spider. And they look at this and say, wow. And the mother looks at it and says, that's how we're going to survive. Teach my girls how to do this stuff. And so to me, that's just amazing. And then and it went on from there. And they were on Broadway. They were in Hollywood. They were, vaudeville all over the country. And then they went to the London stage where they all met husbands who, mostly messed their lives up in interesting ways. So they're married performers. So I don't know. I'm just fascinated by story, by what makes us tick as human beings.
What do you think was the most unusual thing? I'll tell you what mine was. What do you think the most unusual correlation between Rondo and Bob was?
It's just that they're opposites in so many
They
ways.
are.
Huh?
Yes, they're very much.
Yeah. Everybody liked Rondo. And no offense to Bob, but everybody didn't like Bob. I mean, people appreciated him, but he was not very good at relationships, and he knew that, and that was his sadness that he couldn't really connect with another human being very well.
Why do you think that was? I mean, your brief experience with him. I mean, he seemed like a friendly enough guy. It just seemed like that. He was reclusive. Like he would just come out only when he had a job to do.
He wanted things his way. He was very strident in that way.
Hmm.
Like stuff that's not in the movie is someone talked about at a party, some people were playing Monopoly, and he passed by and saw how they were playing, and he got irate because they were not following the rules. He wasn't even in the game; he was just passing by.
Right.
So he was very strident in his beliefs. So
That
same
was
thing. It goes back to Chainsaw and the whole thing of him butting heads with Toby Hooper and talking about blood or not blood.
right. Yeah,
Uh,
they said that they would have to stand outside and relax and maybe have a snack or whatever while Toby and Bob would go. They would you know there'd be a fur ball with them. Trying to get
right.
each other. Yeah. Uh, I think the one thing for me that I really caught, and I don't. I mean, I really love the way how Rondo is portrayed. I believe that's exactly how he was.
Yeah.
Um, I really do. I think you caught him perfectly. I do believe that he was a very gentle soul. He was very smart, very smart. Newspaper man. I mean, that probably helped you a little bit too. He's a former journalist as well. Um,
Yeah.
and he went out there and he was very eloquent, very well spoken. Heartbreaking to see what happened with his first wife. What
It
a
was bad
terrible,
news, man. Yeah.
I mean, what a terrible thing to do. It's like it's not his fault, and you're gonna just and then bully him for it. But then he got to find May. Now, is May still with us, or did she pass on?
No, she's gone. Yeah, I don't know when she died. Yeah, and you know, I think that in many ways she is the star of the film. And I told that to the actress. I said, "You have the toughest job of anybody. The scene where they meet, we have to leave that scene believing that she would be attracted to Rondo, that she
Yeah.
would say, oh, why not? You know, and she pulls it off so well. That's Kelsey Probilski, who I think is a really fine actress. Uh, and you know, and there's also the part. My crew was in tears, literally in tears, when we filmed her as the older May Hatton, when Bob Burns goes to meet her, which is all real. And she chastises him. You know, you don't know this guy. You don't know Rondo, what he was really like. And my crew was blubbering, you know. So it was powerful.
I thought your actor, you mentioned for play Bob. I liked him. I mean, he's you know, you can see that when he was younger, you can see how you know, more assertive he was. A little bit, you know, he wasn't necessarily beaten down by life. You know,
Right.
you know, he still had you know, I don't know. He still was outgoing. He still was, you know, he still was, you know, you know, in the public. You know, he wasn't afraid to go up to people and talk to them or anything else like that. I mean, he was able and willing to engage in conversation. You know, it wasn't like really, you know, like I think if Bob probably from his mid-30s onward, probably wouldn't have done that. He probably wouldn't have been able to go up there to Rondo's widow and talk to her the way that he did when he was younger.
Yeah. Maybe because he was so obsessed, you know. I think he would push through because of that.
Do you think that? Do you think that? I mean, that how big of a collection of stuff of Rondo's, you know, films and memorabilia did Bob own of his, and what became of it?
He had a lot of stuff, but it was mainly what was kept was mainly photos and documents. I have a copy of a script that Rondo wrote. I don't have the original, but I have a copy of it. All that stuff is supposed to go to a museum in Tampa, Florida, and I don't know that it has. And we had access to it for a while, so you know. So I have copies of all these photos. It means Rondo photos. The deal is Bob Burns was collecting this stuff pre-internet era. Now you can go on eBay and, you know, look around and buy stuff,
Right.
or from some collector website. He had to send letters in the mail just looking for stuff. And I realized, there's one photo of Rondo I didn't include in the movie because I didn't realize what it was. And what it was one of the rare candid photos of Rondo. He did all the press stuff, but he didn't like to have his photo taken. So there were very few of them, and I have like one of May's relatives wrote me. That's why when you make a movie, I think that it's essential that you have a website for it before you're done, maybe even before you begin. Because since I had a website out there, I was contacted before we were done with the film by like her niece, and she said, "I got some photos. You want to see them?" And hardly anybody has seen any photos of May Hatton, and they will now because of those ones that I got. And one photo is Rondo in the backyard with a dog, and she's tricking him into getting his picture taken in the back of their house in California. But another one that I have, and I realized it's extremely rare, is Rondo just kind of like sitting in the backyard smoking a cigarette. And it is an extremely candid photo of him that really shows what he looked like. So that's very cool. And I wish I'd put it in the film. I didn't. You know, I've used it in some publicity stuff, but I think it's still not out there very much. I don't know if I answered a question with that or not.
No, but, no. The one thing that struck me, and I'd like to hear your thoughts about this too, is that you had a man in Rondo Hatton who, I mean, acromegaly is a horrible disease, horrible, and extremely painful. I mean, really painful.
Yeah, he had a lot of surgery.
And I mean, and think about back then, there really was no treatment for it. I mean, they recognized it for what it was, but there wasn't any real treatment for it.
Yeah,
I'm not really. I mean, I'm not really sure, but I'm sure there is a lot more today. Probably help to keep it under control.
yeah,
But I found it really interesting that Rondo, with his acromegaly, with his disfigurement, with his the way he looked, and the people would stare at him and people would be scared of him. I
yeah,
found it interesting that he lived his life all the way through until he passed away from the heart attack or heart failure.
yeah. The
Mhm.
implication is that he made a decision somewhere along the line. He could feel sorry for himself and hide from the world, or he could go out and embrace it, and that's really what he chose to do. And as we show in the film, he took in soldiers routinely. He helped people wherever he could. He did not take offense to people with his appearance. He was a little afraid of scaring them. The scene we have in the post office has been quoted a few times in media, where a little girl is scared by his appearance and May says, "Say boo," and
Right.
so he does it, and the girl laughs. That's totally true. Uh,
I wonder if they remove. I want it makes you sort of wonder if they knew the story or whatever. But it sort of reminds me of that scene in Monsters Inc.
mm, maybe so.
I mean, that's the same sort of thing. He came in there and he's supposed to scare the little girl, but he goes boo and she laughs. She thinks it's funny.
Yeah,
Um, the other thing that got me too is like I'm seeing on one side of the coin, I'm seeing Rondo, very bravely, very determinedly. He lived with his condition, very in a very difficult time. And then Bob didn't. Bob 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 took the way out. He took
yeah.
he,
Well, you
he
could say it's cancer, but he also, he had a cancer diagnosis. Nobody's quite sure which kind.
yeah,
Yeah, but a lot of it is that he felt unloved, and we have a little clip from his memorial service at the end in the credits. And there were so many people at his memorial service. He had so many friends, but yet he felt friendless. He felt unlovable, and so that's kind of an underlying part to the story. I don't have an answer for that, why he was that
yeah.
way.
I didn't have an answer for it either, Joe.
Uh,
I was trying to reconcile that.
his
I really
brother
was.
talked about it. His brother, who's a psychotherapist, talked about it, and the notion that when you're a kid, you do co-play, which is you play side by side, and then when you get a little bit older, you play together and have to cooperate. And the notion is that Bob never quite made that jump, so he was always as a co-play kind of guy.
But he was so damn creative, though. He had. It wasn't like he could. It wasn't like he didn't have to interact with people. He had to interact with people just
Yeah,
for and he wasn't that bad at it. I mean, he seemed really, he's really seemed, very, like he wasn't quite as strident all the time. He was willing
yeah,
to work with people. I mean, in low budget films, he's willing to do what he could to help them out. I mean, he wasn't like a curmudgeon by any stretch.
yeah. But he had to
Um,
do it his way. He was a
uh,
control freak. You
what,
know,
how, I mean, did you find any of yourself in these two gentlemen? Did you find a little bit of Joe? Is Joe
yeah,
and part of this? Do you find yourself with any of these two gentlemen's tendencies or behaviors?
sure. But probably both of them. Uh, I I think I get along with people better than Bob did. Uh, but I can be strident too.
Sure.
You know, uh, and I would like to think that I've got a little Rondo in me because he's an extremely kind guy, just a really good person. Um, it's funny that nature chose to give him this appearance. It was like a test for him. how he would deal with it, and he passed the test really well. I hope
Yeah.
someday that I hope our documentary will lead someone to finally do a feature film about Rondo. We've given them the blueprint if they want to do it, and I have no problem with them doing it. I would like to see that story done with a big budget.
I would just like to. I just like to know, be able to walk up to somebody and sit there and say the name Rondo Hatton and see what they say.
Yeah,
I really do believe if you and I walked a convention together and we're filming, like a man on the street type of thing, and went up to people and said, "Tell me a little something about Bob Burns," or "Tell me a little something about Rondo Hatton." I don't think they would. I don't think most of the fans would know. I think they would be like, I think they'd be like, "Huh?"
Yeah, that's tough, and it's tough when you have a film and you're trying to get it out in the world to have that. I mean, I had the same thing with Gary Kent with Danger God. There is a community of super fans who worship Gary, but they're a small minority. There is a much larger group that worships Chainsaw Massacre.
Right.
So that will help us to get out into the world, which is
isn't it something though? I mean, if you think about it, I mean, if you mention most of the time, you always mention, you mention these classic movies. I mean, it's both a boon and a curse, I think. But
yeah.
most of the time you hear, Great Man says he knew of Hatton, but not of Bob Burns. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, like you go to somebody from a classic movie, like Night of the Living Dead, or Halloween, Halloween '78, or and you sit there and say that everybody knows the director.
Sure.
As far as but nobody knows no one knows the cinematographer. Sometimes they know the effects guy, if it's a Tom Savini or Rob Bottin or Jeff Yeager or Rick Baker, they might know that.
Yeah.
But they don't know the set designer or anything else. So it's like we know the surface names, but we don't really know a lot of the people behind it.
Yeah.
It's a little different when you hear about it. Because honestly, the first thing I thought was like, wasn't there a girl named Marilyn Burns in that movie?
Yeah, they're not related. Yeah.
Huh?
She and Bob are not related.
Yeah, but I thought about that. I'm going, wasn't there a Marilyn Burns in that movie? And then I'm going, but because I had never heard of Bob Burns either.
Yeah.
I admit I was totally, I was like fascinated by it. I said, and then because I read it, because I got the press, and I'm going like, wow, this guy's a legend. And then and then I was reading a little bit more about it before I watched the movie, and then I don't, I'm not going to emphasize it or hype on it or anything, but I really wish that he had I wish he had fought just a little bit harder.
He could have made some great stuff. He had an interesting future ahead for him.
I think so
but
too.
I guess he didn't think that. So yeah, it's a weird challenge with this movie because I will go in. We played at a big festival in Santa Ana, California, Horrible Imaginings. Miguel, who runs that festival, is a big Rondo Hatton fan. So he showed our film there. He didn't know as much about Bob Burns, but he learned about him. And then I have Cinema Wasteland. The guy in charge of Cinema Wasteland is a big Bob Burns fan because Bob came to Cinema Wasteland. Bob got all of the Chainsaw people in 2004, shortly before he died, to come to Cinema Wasteland and do a big event that has led to them doing all of these festivals since then. But his comment was, "It's plenty for Bob Burns. You don't need the Rondo Hatton." So I have to fight that with the film when my vision really is both guys. And I also had to fight any urge to make this a Texas Chainsaw Massacre documentary because there has to be a lot of it, but that's not really what the film is. Though my favorite scene in the whole movie is at a convention and all of the various chainsaw cast are lined up on stage and this guy comes to the microphone dressed as Leatherface. and ask them a question, and they crack up. We filmed that convention for 2 days, but that's the only part we really used because it was the moment where the mask came down. And those actors on the stage were basically telling you, this is nuts. This fan worship is nuts. But at the same time, they embrace it,
Have you, I mean, how do you define, and what's your opinion? How do you define it? What's your opinion of super fandom? Has it been?
It's interesting.
Isn't it?
I'm a super fan of various things myself. But it's almost like a family thing for a lot of people. From going to conventions, I see the entire family there. I took some photos that day of that scene I was talking about, of a family, mother, father, and a little kid, and they're all dressed up like a Leatherface. I think that's kind of cool, but it's something they share. So, I don't understand totally the worship of Chainsaw Massacre, but I appreciate it, and I understand that it is something people share.
Oh my gosh, the super fandom is crazy. I mean, I've seen that with a couple of people I know in our community here on the tube. There's massive, just Screen fans or Halloween fans. I mean, they're just crazy about it. That's all they talk about. And it's just like, man, I'm just like, wow, I'm a fan too, but I don't know if I've ever experienced a super fandom like that. Like that's everything to me.
I'm wearing my Houston Horror Film Festival T-shirt. We showed Rondo and Bob there. That was our Texas premiere. We also played at Texas Frightmare. I'm giving you my conventions we've been to, but at Houston Horror Film Festival, there was a guy dressed up as Jason, and he was creeping us out a little bit. He was doing it really well. And then near the end of the convention, I was on the elevator, and there he was with his wife, and he showed me the photo because he had taken a picture with the actor who played Jason.
Which one? Kane Hodder?
I don't think that's it. I don't remember which one it was.
It's funny because we're doing a deep dive on another show that I do, and I didn't realize there were so many different Jasons.
Yeah, but he was so thrilled, and he and his wife were both just here he is with him, and that's the essence of it right there. It's just it could be horror, it could be comedy, it could be anything.
Do you find that sort of ironical that Bob Burns himself was a super fan?
He was a super fan of Rondo, but he was not a horror fan.
No, so but he was a super fan of Rondo. Yes.
Yeah, Bob. I think Bob was an obsessive collector. And so in a sense, he was collecting Rondo and trying to figure him out.
Our good friend Aaron here. I'm sorry, our good friend Aaron here. He's saying hello to you.
Hey, how you doing, Aaron?
Yeah, that's yeah. Who's been your biggest influence as a director? I mean, well, as a director, I mean, here you are. You're doing these movies, but who were you a fan of when you were growing up? And are you a horror fan?
I am. I was telling you the story Project Terror. So I am. I'm not a super fan anymore. I mean, I was more as a kid. I got the magazines. I like Dark Shadows a lot.
Yeah.
Who am I a fan of? Hal Ashby. Do you know who that is? I think that Being There is one of the best movies ever.
Yeah,
it's so true to American politics. Chancellor Gardner, who becomes president. Do you know this film? If you don't,
Peter Sellers.
Yeah, Peter Sellers. It was Peter Sellers' dream to do. I liked. We had little moments like in this film, uh, the very beginning credit stuff, and the end in the tunnel where the lights are blue and they click out. I don't know if you remember that kind of stuff. But I watched The Third Man, the Orson Welles movie,
Yeah.
and
Orson Welles has talked a lot today. We were talking about him earlier. Did you know that he portrayed the Shadow?
oh, that's cool. I saw The Third Man, and I saw the scene in the French sewers, not knowing that that was a studio. That was created in a studio, which kind of annoyed me when I found out. And I said to my shooter, I said, I want to do that. Where can we do that? And that's kind of the way our film progressed, is that, we'd say, let's do something like that. And he told me, well, they're going to have this weird light show downtown. And so we showed up guerrilla, just unannounced with our guy, with our Rondo. And we filmed him in this tunnel, a tunnel that was on the ground. There's old underwear and there's poop all over the ground. And there's homeless people on the other side of this tunnel at the time we were shooting for that part that's beginning the movie. And then they had this light show, and there was another tunnel, and the lights would flicker, and then they went out. And we held the crowd at bay for just a couple of minutes so our guy could walk through it. And all of this is because I saw The Third Man and really liked the look of that scene.
Yeah.
So,
Good movie, good radio show too.
Yeah.
Harry Line, yeah. Great taste. Great taste. I like your taste.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Let's see. Charles mentions that Harold and Maude was by Hal Ashby too.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's see.
Produced by his landlady.
Produced by. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
How hard was it for you to? Did you self-produce this movie yourself, Joe, or did you have? How? Yes.
I had some financial help. There's a guy. There's weird influences in this movie. One of Bob Burns' best friends was a guy named Ed Toutant. Ed Toutant is ranked number 6 all time in game show winnings. He died before the film came out, but he was an executive producer on it, and he put some money into it, and also the Deep Throat Pinball machine. Did you notice that?
I did see that.
Okay, that's real.
Yeah.
We go to Ed Toutant's house, and I had to kind of get him to trust me, because here's this guy said he's doing this movie, and he brought us down to what was basically his laundry room of his house, and there's the Deep Throat Pinball machine. And he said, "Yeah, Bob sold me this," and he takes the cover off of it. And in Gunnar Hansen's memoir, he writes about being interviewed to be Leatherface by Bob Burns in his office, which was called RH Factor for Rondo Hatton. It is where he did graphic design work. That he was interviewed. Gunnar Hansen was interviewed, and that pinball machine was there. Gunnar Hansen talks about it. So I said, we're going to shoot this thing right here. We're going to recreate that scene right here in your laundry room, because I don't want to move that pinball machine. So there's weird stuff like that. And later, when he died, or before he died, he got a brain tumor, Ed Toutant, and he said, "I want to give you the pinball machine to sell to help finance the film." So that happened too, which is kind of odd. So the pinball machine is in the hands of a collector now.
The opening scene with Bob and Gunnar Hansen was really classic.
That's what I'm talking about, yeah.
See, our good friend Kevin mentioned, could his landlady relate to the Maude character?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe so.
I don't know. That maybe, yeah. Maybe
that's a weird movie. Yeah. I love that movie, but it bugs me that they chickened out. They would not see Harold and Maude. We could not see them together.
Yeah.
At one point, they're in a giant bed blowing bubbles. blowing soap bubbles, and that's supposed to signify that they had sex. That's as close as we can get, and that bed is huge, and they're way far apart from each other. You know.
I'm not even so sure they could even do that even today in today's environment.
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah,
Maybe in the 90s or early 2000s, you could do that.
yeah.
Uh, you know, but
The whole
uh, uh,
opening, the whole opening sequence of Harold and Maude, just the ritual mock suicide that he does at the beginning. He does it with such, such order, coming down steps, lighting candle, the whole thing. I just love that. I've seen that a million times.
uh, the scene with Gunnar Hansen and Bob. I mean, there's one thing you and I both touched on this already, but we'll have to touch on it here too because I think a lot of people probably wouldn't know this, but Gunnar Hansen was not a horror fan.
No, Gunnar Hansen was a poet.
Yeah. Yeah, that caught me by surprise more than anything. Probably one of the top 5 things that caught me by surprise in the movie. Because I thought Gunnar Hansen was one of those guys that just and loved it and embraced it and ate, slept, and did horror.
Yeah.
I was really surprised to find out that he was not a horror guy at all. I mean, he did it because it was a job, but it wasn't like he was a big horror fan.
And he was a young guy doing that. They were all young and they were just having a lark. It was something to do. I think Toby Hooper, on the other hand, was intense.
Yes.
He'd been doing this stuff. I got lucky to track down one of his teenage friends, and he came to see the film this past week in Austin. He flew in to see it. A guy named Wayne Thomas, and it was just fascinating to talk to this guy about Toby Hooper making horror films as a teen. 16-year-old Toby, 14-year-old Wayne were making movies. They got in trouble with the police because there's blood in the street, and the police think something real is going on instead of just movie making.
Right. Yeah, just some things don't change. I mean, you still get that today, but I mean, back then probably would have been more alarming.
Yeah.
How old were you when you first started? How old were you when you made your first film?
I'm, not that I made a short, probably late 20s, something like that. But, and I had to learn how to do, and with Danger God, I had to learn how to do it. So it took a really long time. I had this notion that I was going to give this movie to someone else and say, here, make this movie for me. And it's like, it doesn't work that way. You have to actually do it. So I brought someone in, and he and I sat down over a summer and did the cut, did the edit, and I learned a lot between the two films. And I would probably learn a lot more if I'm not sure I'm going to do a third one at this point, but there's always a chance. I'm kind of interested in a short about a local guy in Austin who had acromegaly. His name was Hans Hartkoff. Hans Hartkoff. And he went to the same high school as Bob Burns, and he was a car nut, and he was a racer, did all the car racing. But his condition presented itself earlier, so his entire body was huge. There's a ring somewhere of that's like that big, supposedly, that he wore. So he was a humongous guy. Also seemed to be a very gentle guy. But that condition kills people young because it keeps attacking.
Yeah. I mean, people. It's something people don't really talk about a lot, because it goes up and down, and just imagine your bones constantly growing, shrinking, growing and shrinking. I mean, it's painful. It's
and it gets the heart. And that's what got Rondo.
I thought your scene with him and his wife that was beautiful. That was a beautiful way. I believe that's exactly how it happened too.
Yeah, it's pretty close. Yeah. To the accounts. I don't know if you noticed that is the same bathroom for both Bob and Rondo.
No, I didn't notice that.
We, we,
I was
we
so vested in the acting,
well, we
the
changed it.
storytelling.
There's a shower that disappears. We put a false wall in front of it, and redress the set for both of them. But it's the same little bathroom. Uh, you kind of gotta get what you can get, and that worked for us. My shooter was not happy because it was a very small space, and we had a smoke machine going at one point, and it was real hot. He was getting snippy and kind of miserable. But we got it. We got good stuff.
What was I mean, what are like two or three things? Just to say for three, what are the three things that surprised you the most going into the film and coming out of the film about Bob and Rondo?
Um, Surprised me. With Rondo, I was just surprised at what a good life he had. I don't know if I knew that much about him, even going into making the film. I learned more as we went. Uh,
I was so happy he found a soulmate.
yeah, yeah, and she's such a great lady. I wish I had met her. I feel almost like I have. We have the letters that she sent to Bob Burns. Or we had access to them.
I could say you could definitely, for me anyway, when I watched it, what made it so moving for me was that I did understand, because I met my soulmate, and I know that feeling,
Yeah,
and so yeah, it's a wonderful feeling when it happens, and it's a horrible feeling when it goes away,
yeah.
and so I did not know this, so I did not know that Rondo actually replaced Boris Karloff at Universal, right?
Yeah, that was the plan. Yeah.
Wow.
And then he died. So,
Oh,
before
he died before that happened.
he died as it was kind of in the process of happening. And two of the films were released posthumously. And one of them was kind of dumped. Brute Man, I think, was kind of dumped on a different studio. Um, so maybe because of that.
Right.
And the Brute Man was really the story of Rondo Hatton, loosely done. It's the football star and everything. It's not a bad film.
Terrible title.
Yeah, yeah. I think House of Horrors is maybe Rondo's best film.
Uh, what do you plan on doing next? I mean, if you besides the short you mentioned of the gentleman in Austin, but
Yeah,
are you planning on stretching your wings out and maybe doing fiction? Like going out and becoming, maybe do a movie,
maybe,
that's that not, maybe a fiction movie instead of nonfiction.
maybe. I have something that I'd like to do, but I don't know if I can pull it off because I haven't gotten the family to participate enough, which is about the true story. Again, it's true story stuff of one of the last surviving Munchkins from the Wizard of Oz, and he's not around anymore. But I knew him,
Okay.
and I knew his wife, who was an almost Munchkin, but she got sick, and she is someone who. And see, I need some good investor to make this movie, and she is the child of little people parents. She married a little person, and her husband, the Munchkin, and they had little people children. And this is Guinness Book of World Records material there because that doesn't happen.
Right.
And I think there's a story in that if I can talk, I need their cooperation more. And I talked to them when she was still alive, but kind of close to the end. And they didn't really want to talk to me, so I'm going to try to approach them again. But I think that's a great story.
I would show them this movie. I think if they
Mhm.
saw this movie and saw how much respect and reverence that you had for both your subjects, I
Yeah,
do think that they will probably change their mind. Because I mean, this is a beautifully made film. This is like I said, it has heart to it too. I mean, it's a documentary, but it's not just a cold, hard documentary. It's not just
yeah, I'm
just a
not interested in the cold story. Yeah,
I mean, you were able to show both Bob and Rondo as human beings and with feelings and dreams and desires and all. It's like, a lot of times that doesn't really necessarily happen. And the thing is you did yours with there's really not that much footage left of either one.
Yeah.
Even in 2004, it just wasn't. I just don't see Bob standing there in front of a camera talking to somebody very much. Even
Well,
though the
some
technology
of
is
the
there.
stuff, I had a reviewer who said, the writing is just horrible. This 1940s fake gangster talk. And it's like, that is an article from the 1940s that we recreated. The footage of Bob being interviewed about Chainsaw, we have the real footage of Bob being interviewed for the first Chainsaw Massacre documentary. But I thought it was jarring to have that much of the real Bob. And so we recreated it with our actor. But those are all exactly Bob's words. And there's a few of those with Rondo where we are using the words of actual people. So.
Um, uh, uh, Kevin's mentioning, yeah, it was probably just bad timing. Now it might be better because I'm sure they would like their memory to be shared. Yeah, to leave a legacy behind.
Yeah, I hope so. Because all the Munchkins are gone now. All of them. I was in London doing research for this book that I've written about the Ross sisters. And we went into a pub for lunch, and the name of it was Munchkins. And so I said, well, why do you call this place Munchkins? And the waitress came back with a photo, and there was the guy. His name was Clarence. In the photo, it was the last surviving Munchkins. So just kind of cool. Their story's been done a little bit, but I'm kind of interested in the story of this couple, whose life did not necessarily revolve around this kind of stuff. And they had a lot of prejudice because of their height, a lot they had to deal with.
Right.
We'll see.
Now,
I mean, I haven't really talked about this.
yeah.
The most publicly I've talked about that, but that's just been in my mind lately, that's something I'd like to do.
Well, that's what we do here. We try to get you to share your inner thoughts, and thank you for. I really appreciate it. Does anybody want to ask our guest Joe O'Connell any questions? Feel free to drop a few questions on the chat if you guys wish. Thank you for staying too. I know that I was supposed to get 30 minutes, but I'm very happy that you decided to hang out with us a little longer. I totally appreciate it. I had actually asked Jeff. He knows this from me too. He knows it's coming. He'll sit there and say, well, "Hey, would you like to do an interview with Sure, I'd love to." Okay. Then I do their little thing, the little 30-minute burb, and I go like, "Okay, I'll send that in there." And then I go like, "Oh, by the way, I like to get another 10 minutes or 15 minutes with the guest if I possibly can."
Yeah.
30 minutes is not very long, as you know.
Yeah.
And I know you're doing press, and but I'm going like, yeah, let me see if I can get another 10, 15 minutes out, because it's just fascinating, because especially when we're just chatting away like this, not asking the usual formal questions.
As long as you want.
That's fine. That's awesome. How has the press circuit? How has the press been for the movie?
It's been good.
Should be.
We have been on a film festival tour. We've been all over the country, and we went to Sitges in Spain, Cine Excess in the UK. We've been in some good film festivals. You learn which ones actually get you press. One of the last festivals we were in is Panic Fest in Kansas City, and from Panic Fest, I've gotten all kinds of reviews, and a lot of them have really gotten what been trying to do with this film, which is really heartening. As I said, I set myself up for problems. People wanting more Bob, people wanting more of Rondo, people wanting more traditional documentary, just the talking head thing, So I have to when you look at reviews, first off, one of the great things I learned is by the time you're getting reviews for this, you should be working on something else. And I've been working on a book, so I can deal with that. And the other is what you intended to make. If you made what you intended to make, then it doesn't really matter. It's nice for people to look at it and critique it, but if you satisfied yourself, I think you're okay.
Right.
I'm like Bob. I'm making stuff. That's the deal. I want to make stuff.
Yeah. How's that? What's the biggest difference for you between writing your book and filming a movie? I mean, what are some of the big differences that you've noticed? I mean,
I
both
can't.
pros and cons.
Yeah, I can't rely. When you're making a movie, you got all these other people, and so they help you out. Yeah, I still did a lot, and I formed the whole thing together. And it weirdly, the book is like the film in some ways, that it's a bit of a collage, and the idea is that the collage fits together into something. And the book is more of a straight line narrative. Beginning with what I told you in Hobbs, New Mexico, when they first encountered the contortionist family. And it continues on until the end. And one of the three Ross sisters commits suicide, which is a very big moment on her 15th wedding anniversary. Yeah, so she was unhappy.
My friend Jamie mentioned Joe just David Lynch. Lynch says that about his art a lot.
Says what?
Says that about his art a lot.
That he has to satisfy himself, or
yeah. I mean, you got to make yourself happy first. I mean, if you're not happy with it, then it sort of will go out there, and the audience will sense that. Especially if they talk about it. Like sometimes you'll hear that about an artist. You'll hear them talk about it, and you can sense that there's some frustration or regret or or anger or anything else because they didn't get what they really wanted. They had to settle for for compromise or whatnot, and so sometimes you sense that they're not particularly happy. So you sort of get that, like, wow, if they're not happy with what they made, will I be happy with what they made? And I'm watching.
And I think you can't worry about this weird thing that Kirk, my partner in this crime, he and I have talked about it. The notion that people say, I'm going to make a movie when I have some money or whatever. You can't wait. Just make the movie. Just do it, man. Find a way. Yeah, certainly you need to have money for the budget, but my day job is teaching college. And
you teach at Texas?
What's that?
You teach at University of Texas, Austin?
No, I teach at Austin Community College. I'm just a lowly guy. But I teach extra classes to pay for this stuff. So, and I'm on sabbatical right now, which is kind of good for all this. I get paid not to teach for a while. It's
let's see. Don't wait. You have an idea. Fish. That's what we've been telling Jamie to do. We're telling Jamie to make her first record and put it out. She's got a really good voice. Just go ahead and make a record and put it out so we can buy it all.
Just do it.
I'm a little bit more. I don't know if it was the term practical is the term I'm looking for, but sometimes I wish, as far as maybe documentary is a little different from a feature film, but I'm one of those guys is like, man, if you want to make a feature film and you budget the movie, there's some film directors that will go out there and they say their movie is, they have a $10,000 budget they want to get to, but let's say they only get $4,000. They'll go out there and make that $4,000 movie. And me, I'm one of those guys that sits there and go, like, listen, you were able to raise the $4,000, fine. You're able to do it.
Yeah. Orson Welles, Othello. You know about
it? Making this movie before he got his budget?
He made it in pieces. He would go work whatever kind of crappy acting job he could get and he would take that money and get everybody back together, shoot some more. And he did that over and over again until he had a movie.
Yeah.
So,
But he had the budget, because I actually reviewed a movie. In fact, I should actually talk to him. But he made a movie. It took him 5 years to get his movie made. 5 years, and you can see it on screen. You can see it. You can see his actors had aged during the movie
suddenly
making.
had canes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it was so interesting and so different. But he persevered.
Yeah. You know Mark Borchardt, American Movie,
Mm,
the documentary about him making a horror film.
no, I haven't seen that one.
Oh, watch it. But Mark is still making movies. He was making a movie called Coven, spelled Coven, but he called it Coven.
Okay.
And the documentary is about it was a long time ago. Is about him making that film. He's sitting at his parents' house and he's getting his friends to work with him, and the whole thing. But he's still making movies. I follow him on Facebook because I find him fascinating.
There's some filmmakers like that. I mean, you mentioned Gary. You mentioned Gary Kent. We're talking about Gary Kent. To me, what I would like to do, I don't know if you got to meet him, but if you ever want to make a movie about our fascinating character, I'd love to see someone do a documentary on Todd Sheets.
Oh yeah, I just know about him through Gary.
Nicest guy, makes the goriest movies, but
Yeah.
he's the nicest guy.
Yeah, and he keeps pumping them out too.
Yeah. I mean, nicest guy. Super nice. His crew would jump off the cliff for him. Let's see. This one's been a lot of fun. Let's see. The Twin Peaks community wanted more Twin Peaks, so we fundraised $25,000, and the fan film turned out fantastic. Go get what you want. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can get that, by all means.
Yeah.
By all means.
Yeah, my first film we did an Indiegogo campaign and raised 10,000. So it helps.
It does help.
Yeah.
Okay, documentary about the filming process of your next movie is brilliant. It's like shooting two movies at once. Yeah, that would be interesting. So I've always found those to be fascinating. Documentaries about other documentaries. That's what I love about Behind It.
And we'd have to make a documentary about making the documentary about the documentary.
I find special features on films to be amazing. I listen to directors' commentaries all the time.
Yeah,
I'm hooked on those. When I see a movie has that a director's commentary, which I hope to hell that Rondo and Bob gets, because I would love to hear your thoughts on it from your perspective. I'm hooked by that. I am absolutely. It's just I love to hear about the process. It is now 5:00, just about. I'm going to let you go, sir. Okay. I am thankful for you. I have to get ready for another one. I'm interviewing a cast of a radio show at 8:00.
Cool.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
I want to do this again.
All right.
Are you on Instagram or Facebook?
I am on Instagram as I think just Joe O'Connell. Could be Joe M. O'Connell. Okay. Facebook, there's a Rondo and Bob page on Facebook and on Twitter.
Is it Facebook? Is it Rondo and Bob on Facebook?
Yeah, just Rondo and Bob. Yeah.
Okay. I'll put that in the description below. I'll put the trailer down below as well.
Okay.
And if anybody wants to see the movie, what's the best way they can see it? Is it being streamed anywhere?
It's going to be streaming begins on June 7th, and it should be pretty wide. I have been schooled on this. VOD is first, then subscription-based VOD, which is like Netflix and Shudder, is next, and then the last one is AVOD, the ad-based, Tubi and things like that.
Right.
So the 7th will be the first. It'll be all over cable and satellite, video on demand. It'll be, I'm sure it'll be on Amazon Prime and iTunes and that kind of stuff. So
I really hope it does really well for you.
Thank you.
I believe it will. I think people, especially among horror folks, I mean, people who
Yeah,
are super fans or whatnot, I'm sure between them watching it and the word of mouth will do very well for you. And we wish you the very best. And like I said, I'll keep in touch with you. And then when you get done with the Ross story, and that's finished, I'd love to talk to you about that some more.
cool. Yeah, that'd be great.
Everybody in the chat, I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Thanks for hanging out with me and Joe. Of course, I will be back tonight at 8 o'clock to interview the cast of St. Mary's School for the Children of the Stigmata. Now, say that 3 times fast, right? So that will see our friend Samantha Mocker and the lovely Laura Hunter Drago. They will be here with the cast of their show, and we will be talking about bringing radio to the new century,
Cool.
the new era. It's different. That's very cool too.
And people can keep up with us on rondoandbob.com too.
RondoandBob.com, and you can keep. Yep, I'll put that in there as well. And if people wanted to buy the movie video on demand, I mean, is there any way you guys are? If people, is there any way possible for people to buy physical copies from you through your website or not?
We're looking at how we're going to do that. We don't have a plan for that yet. But I have a sales agent and a distributor,
Okay.
and there is not. The distributor doesn't have an interest in physical copies. So I need a different distributor for that.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to do it myself, really.
No, I understand.
But I don't really want to. Yeah.
All right, guys. I will see you in a little bit. Stay right where you're at there, Jill, and I'll say goodnight to everybody, or till 8 o'clock.
All right.
Oh, I think I froze here.